welcome back to our channel. It's Bella here. In today's tutorial I'm going to be doing a first impressions on the new Jaclyn Hill brush collection. So I just wanted to sit down and just use the brushes how I would use them in my makeup routine. So I did not use every single brush because I feel like there's quite a few brushes in this collection and you do not need every single brush, but I will definitely let you guys know which brushes worked for me, which ones didn't. And yeah, so if you want to see how I achieved this look and how I like the brushes, then just keep on watching. So I'm just going to jump right into the makeup, and I'm just going to use the brushes that I would normally gravitate towards when I'm doing my makeup. So I'm just going to grab whichever brush I feel like is going to work for me for that step. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is prime my eyelids using the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. So I'm just going to apply that to my eyelids. And I'm just going to blend it out with a damp beauty sponge like I always do. So after I applied the concealer, I just blended it out with a damp beauty sponge. And then now I'm going into the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH07 brush. And I'm just going to use this to set my entire eyelid. And I'm just going to use a little bit of my Laura Mercier translucent powder. And I'm just going to set my eyelids. I know some people don't set the eyelid, but I personally find that whenever I set my concealer on my eyelid, eyeshadows blend a lot easier. So that's why I set my eyelids. So now I'm going to be grabbing my Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH42 brush. It's this little defined brush, and I'm grabbing my Alamar Cosmetics palette, and I'm grabbing the shade La Costa to highlight my brow bone. So I'm just taking that shade on my brow bone and I'm just lightly adding it as my brow bone highlight. I usually like my brow bone highlight brush to be a little bit bigger, but I find that this one really is so small that you can just get up in there and get really close to the brow. And I feel like this type of brush would work best if you are the type of person that likes to apply your brow bone highlight last, and that way you don't mess up the entire eye look because the brush is so small and defined. But I do my brow bone highlight first, so I personally use a brush that's a lot bigger, but I had no problem using this brush. Alright, so next I'm going to be going into my Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette. And I'm going to be taking this light pink shade right here. And I'm taking my JH30 brush, which is this brush right here. And I'm just going to be putting that in my crease as my transition shade. I'm not being too specific with this shade just because it is the transition shade. So I'm just putting it in the crease, going in back and forth motions. This brush is a lot bigger than the brush that I normally use to apply my transition shade, but I feel like this one gets the job done a lot faster than this one. This one I usually have to like work it in my crease for like a couple of minutes, but this I feel like all I did was a couple swipes and it really got the eyeshadow in there nice and blended. So next I'm going to be going into this darker pink shade with my JH34 brush, and I'm just going to take a generous amount on my brush. So I'm just taking that shade in my upper crease area and I'm just going in back and forth motions. I actually really like this brush. I feel like it is the perfect size just to get in my crease. I don't know if you guys see that, but it's literally adding the definition in my crease for me in a really effortless way. So I'm just going to layer it up just to see how defined I could get it, but still looking blended. I'm going to go back into the JH30 brush and I'm going to take that lighter pink shade just to blend it out even more. So I'm taking this shade again, and I'm just going to put that right over top to blend it out. Just going in back and forth motions. So far I'm pretty impressed. I'm the most excited to use the face brushes because I have very particular brushes that I use on my face, so that will be the true test. I'm not really picky when it comes to eye brushes, but with face brushes I'm super picky. So I'm just putting that in my crease, and I feel like it's blending out really, really nicely. Do you guys see? So I'm just grabbing the JH40 brush and I'm dipping it into the darker matte brown shade, and I'm just going to add some definition to my outer crease area. I think I was the most excited for this brush just because of the size. It's just such a small blending brush. I've never seen a brush like this. So I don't know if Morphe, I think Morphe already sells a brush like this, right? I'm not really sure if they do or not, but this is my first time ever trying a brush like this, and I really, really like it. I think I might replace this with my Define angled brush that I use in like every single video, because it just adds definition in a blended way, where when you use just like a Define angled brush like this, it just takes some time. Hold on, let me show you guys. As opposed to using a Define angled brush like this, it just takes a little bit more time to blend it out. But with this brush, because I would normally be using the Define angled brush, but with this brush, you can just blend it out as you apply it, because it is a blending brush. It's not such a harsh edge on the brush. So I'm just applying that to my outer corners. So next I'm going to go back into the JH30 brush, which is the first big blending brush that I used in my crease, and I'm just going to go back into the first shade that we used, which is this light pink shade, and I'm going to lightly dip it into the yellow shade as well, just to really blend everything out even more. So I'm just going to be taking that in my crease, going in back and forth motions. So next I'm going to clean up the lid space, and I'm going to use the JH41 brush to do that. And I'm just covering my entire lids with that foundation, and then I'm gonna set it with some translucent powder. I'm grabbing my Laura Mercier translucent powder once again, and I'm taking the same exact brush, and I'm just going to be setting all over the lid, because this is a foundation. It will crease if I don't set it, so I am setting it right away. So for all over the lid, I'm going to go back into my Alamar Cosmetics palette, and I'm going to take this really foiled light green shade, and I'm just going to pack that all over the lid with my JH41 brush. So I'm going to pack that shadow all over my eyelid. I did wet my brush with my Smashbox Photo Finish primer water, just to kind of make the eyeshadow a little bit more vibrant, but I honestly didn't need to wet my brush because this eyeshadow is so pigmented, and I feel like this brush is actually really good for applying eyeshadows all over the lid. It's just the perfect size, just to really pack it on there real quick. With this eyeshadow in particular, I like to use my finger and just kind of stamp it on, and I feel like that's the most pigmented way, or the most effective way to make your eyeshadow look super pigmented, and it almost looks like a glitter because it's so foiled. Honestly, you guys, this is how many eye brushes there are in this brush collection, and I've only used 3 so far in this eye look. I'm going to try to use all of them in this tutorial, but so far I've only used like 3 or 4 brushes, so let me just use a different brush just for the sake of using all the brushes in this video. So I'm taking my JH31 brush, and I'm going to be taking this deeper pink shade once again, and I'm going to just pack that all over the outer lid space, fading it inward. So I'm just going to be packing that shade on the outer corner, fading it inwards. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's literally doing the work for me. All I'm doing is tapping it and it's already applying in such a blended way. I'm honestly really impressed with all the brushes that I've used so far. So I'm just tapping, and also when you tap, as opposed to like swirling it in, you're going to be taking off the pigment from the eyeshadow, but if you just lightly tap it over, you're not really going to be taking the eyeshadow off, you're just going to be kind of merging them together, if that makes sense. So I think I'm going to go back into the brown shade right here and add even more depth, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking... I'm actually going to grab the JH37 brush. I have not used this one yet, so I'm just going to dip it into the brown shade. So I'm just going to be stamping it on the lower lash line, and I'm just mainly focusing it on the outer corner, and I'm only taking it in halfway on the lid. And once again, I'm just doing really light tapping motions just to get the most blended look right off the bat. So I just applied my wing liner and I used my Smashbox Always On liquid liner, and now I'm just going to add mascara and lashes off camera, and I'll be right back. So I just put on my Shop Sofie Bella Barbados lashes. The link will always be in the description box if you guys want to support our lash company. Just going into primer, I'm just grabbing my Smashbox Photo Finish Hydrating Primer. So I'm just going to put that on my hand and just apply it on my face. You guys, I'm so extra. I literally brought... Let me show you all the primers that I brought for this video, because I wasn't sure what type of primer I wanted to use. These are all the oh no, this is a foundation. These are all the oh, I can't even hold them up. These are all the primers that I brought, just in case like I wanted a mattifying primer or hydrating primer. But I just received this Estee Lauder The Mattifier Shine Control Perfecting Primer. So I'm just going to put that in my T-zone to mattify and kind of minimize my pores a little bit in that area. So let's see, it feels pretty milky for a mattifying primer, but I'm just gonna focus that on the center of my face just to kind of like smooth out my pores. So next I'm going to be grabbing my Laura Geller Filter Corrector Perfecting Balm. I've been using this little trio a lot lately. It's just a color correcting trio, so it has a pink shade or salmon shade, a blue shade, and a green shade. I'm just going to go in with the pink shade, and I'm just going to use my finger, and I'm just going to color correct my under eye circles because they are pretty intense. So I'm just going to blend it into my skin, and as you can see, that already really canceled out my under eye bag, and I've been loving this step. Highly recommend this product. It is so creamy and it sits really well underneath my concealer, and that's pretty much the issue that I have with a lot of color correcting products. I just don't really like the way that they sit underneath my concealer. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my foundation that I have been obsessed with. It's the Becca Skin Love foundation, and I'm using the shade Olive. And I like that it has a pump. I feel like a lot of companies are coming out with a foundation similar to this with the pump, and I'm here for it because it just makes life easier. So I'm just going to pour one pump on the back of my hand, and I think I'm going to go in with my finger and just apply it, and then I'll blend it out with the JH03 brush, which is kind of like the Kabuki foundation brush. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply that with my fingers first. So we'll see how much the brush absorbs the product. I think I might need a little bit more foundation. I never thought that I would love a kind of like a natural finish of a foundation, but it is so, I feel like it's pretty full coverage for being a lightweight foundation, so that's why I like it. So yeah, I'm just gonna apply a little bit more and apply some down my neck as well. So I'm just going in with the JH03 brush, like I said, and I'm just gonna blend that out. I'm just gonna kind of stamp it in place first, and then after I do that, then I'll do more swirling motions. The bristles on this brush are a little bit longer than the kabuki brush that I normally use for my foundation. Normally I use the BH Cosmetics #2 brush, so it's a lot more of a shorter bristle, and it's a lot more flat on top, where this one's a little bit more curved on top. But I don't mind it at all. I feel like my foundation looks pretty nice. It's not that big of a difference. Switching from this one to this one, I mean, they're pretty similar in size. So yeah, I liked how this foundation brush applied my foundation. I don't feel like it absorbed any of the product at all, and you can't see any brush strokes in my skin or anything like that. It does look pretty smooth for the most part. But yeah, so I definitely like this brush. I will say there are so many brushes in this collection, so don't feel like you need to buy every single brush. But I'll let you know the ones that I'm crazy about and the ones that, you know, just don't really do anything for me. But so far, I've really loved all the brushes that I've used. So I do want to cream contour just a little bit on the outer perimeters of my face. And I just received these Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place foundations. And I got this little mini one in the shade Mocha. So I'm just going to apply this to all the outer perimeters of my face. So we will see how this goes, because this is a really full coverage foundation. So I'm just going to apply a little tiny bit to the back of my hand, just the tiniest bit. And I'm going to go super light-handed with this shade, because I feel like it can get really out of hand. So I'm just going to apply it with my finger first. Just like a couple dots in the areas that I want to cream contour, and then I'm going to blend it out afterwards. I'm just taking the Jaclyn Hill JH08 brush, which looks like this, and I believe this is the brush she said that she used for her cream contour. So we're just going to go ahead and see how this brush works for blending that out. So I'm just kind of doing circular motions just to blend it out, and that blends pretty easily actually. I was expecting it to be a little bit harder to blend out since it is a full coverage foundation. But I feel like that blends really nice. I do like the size of this brush. I feel like if it was any bigger, it would just blend it out too far from where I applied the cream contour. Wow, I actually really, this is probably, I keep saying that every brush is like my favorite brush in the collection, but I think this one is actually my favorite brush just because I do not have a brush that I'm like crazy about for my cream contour, but this one is really good. So I think I'm going to go in with my foundation brush, once again, the JH03, just to kind of make sure that everything is super blended. So I'm just going to go over everything and make sure that there are no areas that are harsh. So now I'm going to go in with my concealer. I'm going to go in with my Too Faced Born This Way multi-use sculpting concealer. So I'm just going to apply this concealer to all the center parts of my face, and I'm using the shade Vanilla. And I'm also going to take it down the bridge of my nose as well. And I'm just going to add a little tip, a little dot on the tip. So as you guys can see, I went a little bit overboard with the concealer, and I feel like this concealer is actually way too light for me. But we're going to make it work. I'm going to blend it out. And I think I'm going to use the Huda Beauty banana powder to set it. Just that way it's a little bit of a darker color powder, so maybe it'll like balance it out a little bit. But I'm going to use my beauty blender to blend this out. So I'm just setting my under eyes with the Huda Beauty banana bread loose powder. And I'm just going to be letting that sit there for a minute. And I'm going to grab my Morphe JH42 brush, which is this little defined brush. And I'm taking my BH Cosmetics Brilliance Bronzer in the shade Cocoa Cutie. And I'm just going to lightly contour my nose a little bit. So I'm just going to take it underneath and right over the center part like this. And then I'm going to also take it up the sides just a little bit to just add a little bit of color to my nose, because I feel like I went so... I put so much concealer that it really brightened up the center of my face, so I just want to add a little bit more color back into my face on my nose. So I'm just going to blend that out with some more of that loose powder. And to wipe it away, I'm using my JH07 brush, and I'm just going to lightly dust it off. And I actually really like this for under eye powder. If you like to use a brush to set your under eye, I recommend this brush. I personally don't set my under eye with a brush, but I do like to use a specific brush to blend out my powders once I put like blush and bronzer. So I like to use a brush to blend that out, and I do like to use a brush to wipe away the powder after I set underneath my eyes. And this brush is really similar to that brush that I use. I use this Luxie 660 brush, and this is the Morphe JH07. So as you guys can see, they're pretty similar, pretty much the same brush actually. This one's just a little bit fuller, but I like this one because it's smaller, so you can just really get close up to that eye. But yeah, so now I'm just going to apply my nose highlight and inner tear duct highlight. So I'm just taking my Anastasia Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit, and I'm going to be mixing the shades Forever Young and Glow Getter. And I'm taking the JH39 brush, which is this teeny tiny little detailed brush. And I'm just going to be highlighting the tip of my nose as well as my inner tear duct. And highlighting the inner tear duct is really going to open up the eyes, and highlighting the tip of the nose is going to kind of give like a little bit of a lifted look to the nose. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the JH07 brush, and I'm just going to dust away the powder that I had sitting on my nose. So now I'm gonna... So now I'm just going to add a little bit of eyeshadow to the outer corners of my lower lash line, and I'm going to be going back into the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette. And which brush do I want to take? I'm actually going to take the JH42 once again, and I'm just going to be grabbing this light pink shade. And I'm just going to pop that on my lower lash line. So I'm actually going to switch from the JH42 to the JH38. I just feel like this brush is a little bit bigger and it's just going to do the job a lot faster. So I'm just dipping into that light pink shade and just adding a little bit of definition in the lower lash line in my outer corner. I'm just going to go into this matte brown shade, and I'm going to be taking the, where is it? I'm going to be taking the JH43 brush. So I'm just taking it really close to the lash line, just taking it in back and forth motions and just kind of stamping it really close. And I like this brush a lot. I do have a couple of brushes that are pretty similar to this, but this brush is actually really, really nice. So I'm taking the JH38 once again, and I'm just going to blend out that brown shadow with the light pink shade, and I'm also going to dip into this yellow shade as well. Just kind of mix the two together. And I'm just going to blend that down just a tiny bit. So for highlight, I'm first going to go in with my ABH Liquid Glow, and I'm going to mix the shades Peach Fizz and Perla, and I'm just going to apply the cream product with my finger. So I'm just taking that product with my finger and I'm just working it into my skin, and this product dries pretty quickly, so you have to work pretty fast. So for highlight, I'm going to use my I keep saying ABH, my Anastasia Beverly Hills Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit, and I'm going to use the same shades that we used to highlight our nose and inner tear ducts. So I'm going to use Glow Getter and Forever Young to highlight my cheekbones, and I'm going to be using the JH09 brush. And I will say, if you are the type of person that likes to use a fan brush like this is the brush that I normally use, then this might not be your favorite brush to use for your highlight. I find that I'm so used to using a fan brush that when I use a brush like this, I don't really know how to use it, but I really like how it looks. I feel like it looks really nice, and it looks the same as if I were to use this brush. Also, it hasn't really opened up that much. Like, it's kind of in its own little shape from being in the box. I feel like the more you use it, the more it just kind of opens up and becomes more fluffy, so keep that in mind. Like, this is my first time using all of these brushes, but I really, really like how it applied my highlighter. So next, I'm going to be going in with my bronzer. I'm using my BH Cosmetics Brilliance Bronzer in the shade Cocoa Cutie. Using my Morphe JH02 brush, and I'm just going to start to warm up my face. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this brush because I thought that I wasn't going to like it, but I literally dipped it into here one time and went like this, and like twice, and I felt like my forehead already looked bronzed. It just took 2 seconds. Like, using a brush like this is really going to be a lifesaver when you're in a rush, because it just works really quickly because it's such a big brush that it just gets your whole face. But I am going to go in with this brush as well, the JH05, to really add definition, and so we'll see how I like this one. It's actually funny because I like to use a brush, where is it? I like to use a brush like this to add definition, and then I go back into a fluffier brush to blend it out. But this brush, I feel like, is giving me just as much definition as this one, but blending it for me, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of cutting out a step in my makeup, and I feel like most of these brushes are doing that, because normally I go in with a super defined brush and then I have to go back in and blend it out. But these brushes are defined, but they're still blending it out, if that makes sense. Like, I found that with a lot of the eye brushes, and now I'm finding that with the face brushes as well. So I really, really like that. So I'm just concentrating it on my cheekbones, my jawline, and my forehead. And a little bit under my nose and on the center of my nose, just to kind of give that sun-kissed look. And then I am going to go back into the, what brush is this? JH07 just to really blend everything out even more. You guys, I really do feel like my face looks better than usual, like my makeup, my face makeup. So I'm really liking how it looks, and that's just me being genuine. For blush, I'm going to be using the JH04, and I'm going to be using my California blush from Benefit. It's my favorite blush. So I'm just going to be putting that on the apples of my cheeks. And then I'm going to be grabbing the, what is this, JH06 brush, and I'm going to be applying more of that blush just to kind of add it. So this one kind of added it really specifically to the apples of my cheeks, but sometimes I like my blush a little bit more flushed. Yeah, a little bit more flushed with my skin. So I'm just going to apply it to my chin, a little bit on my forehead, and a little bit on the nose, just to give that really sun-kissed look. We're just trying to look kissed by the sun. And then lastly, I'm going to apply my lip color, and then I will be right back. So for my lip color, I used the Huda Beauty Demi Matte lipstick in the shade Mogul, and I used the Dose of Colors gloss in the shade Bellini, because I already know you guys are probably going to ask in the comments below what lip color I'm wearing. I'm just going to set my face real quick with the Urban Decay Chill Makeup Setting Spray, so I'm just going to do that really quick. So this is the finished look. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I was honestly really pleasantly surprised with this collection. I feel like every single brush was really thought out, and I'm so grateful to have received all the brushes in PR. But I will say this right off the bat, this is definitely one of those collections that I would have bought with my own money if it didn't get sent to me, just because I'm such a genuine fan of Jaclyn Hill. I feel like she's one of the first influencers that I started watching when I first started doing makeup, and I feel like I learned a lot of what I know from her. Even though a lot of the stuff that I do, I feel like I kind of made it my own, I will say that I learned a lot from her, and she's one of the first people that I started watching here on YouTube, and she had a pretty big influence as far as like me starting my channel, so I will throw that out there. But like I said earlier, I don't feel like you guys need to go out there and buy every single brush in this collection. The main brushes that I was super impressed with were this brush right here, the JH05. I really loved how small this brush was for just getting into the hollows of my cheeks and just really contouring it out and giving definition, but in a blended look, in a blended way. And I really like the JH02 brush as well, just because I feel like it's big enough to just give a nice wash of bronze for when you're really quick on the go. And what else? The other brushes that I was super impressed with was, another brush was the JH40. This brush right here really added definition to my crease in a blended way, as opposed to using a defined angled brush like we normally do on our channel. But the problem with that is that you just need to go in and blend it even more, but this one, it just already applies it right off the bat in a super blended way. And honestly, there's a few other brushes that I was super obsessed with. The JH30 for the transition shade in the crease, just like a really big fluffy brush. This one just added the color so quickly, and I really loved it. So the winner for this month's giveaway is Maria Maldonado, so congrats to you, girl. And be on the lookout for a DM. We're about to slide in your DMs. So thank you, Maria, for entering this giveaway, and thank you for supporting our channel. If you want to be entered in this month's giveaway, make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure that you have your post notifications turned on. Hit that bell button if you don't want to miss any of our videos. And that's it. So this is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.